Hello everybody, it's Kentario and I'm back again with Christ and comic books. And today's episode, Today's episode is we are looking at Marvel Zombies and DC's DCeased. Okay, and the reason we're looking at these is because these are the two biggest comic book industries zombie stories. To put it simply, DCeased will tell you they're not zombies, but they are the two biggest hitting for zombie storylines, and that's what I want to focus on in today's video. We're wanting to look at comparing the differences and the similarities between the two stories. We're not actually going to be tackling all of that in this one video, but what we're going to do is we're going to compartmentalize. This video is going to be giving us a brief touch on both books and giving us a little bit of the history behind each one. And then in our upcoming videos, we'll do one for Marvel Zombies, we'll do one for DCeased, and then, of course, we'll wrap it up by bringing in, of course, religion. We're going to bring in some faith into, you know, what correlates when it comes to zombies, because the Bible, in fact, does speak to zombies. So, with that being said, let's get the party started. The first one to actually make its appearance and introduction into the comic book world is Marvel Zombies, starting in 2005. It came out in December of 2005, and they finished up around April of 2006. So, of course, bada bing. Of course, now what they ended up doing was, this cover stems from Secret Wars cover, and they zombified the cover. And all throughout the book, of course, they consist of those same types of redesigns for different comic book issues, redesigned in zombie form. They went through and did a lot of that work, which is amazing, by the way. I think it's an incredible art style, incredible artwork. Another thing to take into consideration as well, the creator of this was, in fact, Robert Kirkman, the creator of Walking Dead, who illustrated and came up with the storyline for Marvel Zombies. Now, something to identify about Marvel Zombies that I think is important to keep in mind, too. I want to go ahead and identify that I don't think as much thought was put into Marvel Zombies as there was put into DCeased. Now, I know I'm going ahead and bringing this about early, which may reveal, it's like, oh, okay, then what's the point of telling the story? Well, I still want to hit on, you know, the strengths and weaknesses of each one. Because, for example, in Marvel Zombies, although seems as though it was just kind of thrown together and issued out, they did put together a great storyline that even though it's lacking in some areas, it had that draw-in that made you go, oh, snap, they went there, yo. Like, so that's the biggest thing about Marvel Zombies that I want to make sure that we recognize. And they come from two standpoints, too, in the story that we'll elaborate on more as well, which is, one being, Marvel has played at what's called the what-if storylines. And that's where they make their own stories for what if so-and-so didn't get the powers that they were supposed to get. What if Charles Xavier didn't start the X-Men? What if Rogue didn't join the X-Men? What if, you know, Black Panther, what if T'Challa wasn't made the Black Panther in Wakanda? What would the outcome be? What if that ship that landed in Wakanda didn't land in Wakanda, but landed somewhere else, for instance, and they got into the hands of S.H.I.E.L.D., so they got all their hands on vibranium? What if Thanos wasn't the one hunting for the gauntlet, but Dr. Doom got it first? So what would the outcome be? They play a lot on those types of things, and I think that's what was introduced here. And what I mean by that is with the level of thought that went into making this storyline, that's what I think they kind of played off of. Now, another aspect to that is, as well, they played off of the Marvel multiverse. Primarily, they go off the aspect of Earth, like 2169 is the one that was primarily infected, and then that universe was trying to make its way into another universe because they had the zombies of that universe that already eaten up everybody, so they were kind of expanding their hunt, right, by going into another universe and doing the same thing there. Another major thing with these zombies is they've maintained their intellect right from the beginning of the story. So those are just minimal things to keep in mind that make the story, yet, although it's lacking in some areas, it's still a pretty strong story that if they wanted to, they could pick back up now and add to it and make it even better and even better and even better. Now, this leads me into DC's DCeased. Now, this was, in fact, written by Tom Taylor and a couple of other popular comic book writers and artists and story editors and things. But the thing about Tom Taylor is Tom Taylor contributed to some great stories for DC, such as Injustice was another one of his big writings, which I want to really give a shout out to for Tom Taylor. So that means that if Injustice was as big as it was, not only in the video game fashion, but also in its actual comic, then you know that the story of DCeased was thought out, put together strategically to really make something that wasn't just going to be a short series, but something that would last. And they do a great job of, you know, going ahead and where you think, okay, so so-and-so is going to be able to save the day. Nope, that's not how the story is going to go. So-and-so is going to help make the difference in this moment. Nope, that's not what's going to happen. Not doing any spoilers yet. We'll get into it in a later video. But that's where DCeased really makes a huge difference. They do a lot of things to correlate with some of the main pieces of DC. They bring in some of those core values to some of those core pieces of DC. The anti-life equation is a major part of it, which leads into them making that something that causes these people to act as if they are infected like a zombie. But it's not an infection of zombification, but it's more so they're just spreading death throughout the DC universe. They're going around and just killing other people. You literally see them attack their own self first because of the impact of the equation in them, and then they go, of course, and attack everything that they see that isn't already infected. So that's the premise behind this storyline. This is really just causing death, really just hurting each other any way they can, whether it be through getting their fingers in somebody or biting them. So that's really the way that they approach causing the infection to spread. They demonstrate without speaking to it that there is a level of intellect that is maintained by each of the characters in the DCeased storyline. So it's very well thought out, very well written, very creative. I was actually more drawn to DCeased than I was to Marvel Zombies. I was left kind of wanting more with Marvel Zombies than I was with DCeased. But like I said, we're going to get into the impact of these stories in a later video. Now, some of you may be asking, you know, it's like, okay, so he's looking at zombie stories in Marvel and DC. Where do zombies come in at in the Bible? Now, the biggest main point in the Bible when zombies make an not an introduction, but are brought in is really in Revelations, that there will be dead that will be rising. And so that is something that is to be acknowledged that we will actually speak on. We'll do a separate video on as well. So there'll be 3 parts. We'll do 3 different parts because that's a very important thing that you can't just speak lightly of. We can't take lightly. And just to speak on it a little bit, with the Bible, it does acknowledge, you know, the death being risen, right? That is actually something that is brought forth, one with Jesus when he brought Lazarus from the dead. That's something that is spoken in that moment. There's a moment in the story in the book of Ezekiel when Ezekiel's in the desert and these dry bones were risen as the soldiers that they were to come and fight for him. I actually can't recall off the top of my head right now if those zombies actually went into battle to fight for them, but it's a valued piece of the history of the Bible that is to be maintained. Even more so, above all else, Jesus Christ himself, he died and he rose from the dead. Again, now this is the play of what they do for zombies, is them rising from the dead and spreading the disease of zombification. But we do see that not only from the expectations of Revelations, but we do see that bringing something or someone back from the dead stems from the Bible. And it's not something to be like, okay, so zombies are okay then? No, not necessarily. That's not where I'm coming from. But bringing something back from the dead plays its part, even in the biblical illustration. So that's all I really have for you guys. I wanted to make sure that I brought this out for you. And I hope you guys are looking forward to what we're going to bring forth with not only Marvel Zombies, but as well as DCeased. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button as well as check out my most recent material. And again, thank you guys, and y'all have a blessed one.